Hey, welcome to the Publish, Promote, Profit podcast with me, Rob Kosberg. Every week, I interview thought leaders and experts who have used a book to grow their income and their impact. So tune in weekly for these interviews so you can learn how to use your own best-selling book and go from hunting for clients and opportunities to instead being the hunted. All right. Hey, welcome everybody. Rob Kosberg here with another episode of the Publish, Promote, Profit podcast. So excited to be with you today with a great guest, somebody who has made a massive, massive impact in the world because of the books that he's written, Mr. Phil Jones. Phil has written what I might call, didn't ask his permission to say this, but what I might call the Exactly series, exactly how to sell, exactly where to start, exactly what to say. In fact, 8 best-selling books, 2 original programs for Audible, delivered over 2,500 presentations in 57 countries, 1 million or thereabouts books sold, 2 million people impacted. Holy cow. Are you done, Phil, or are you just getting started?
I'm just warming up.
I love it. Well, thank you. Thanks for being here today. Really excited to talk to you, excited to learn a little bit about kind of what makes you tick and also the impact that your books have had. I guess the beginning of this, you may have heard many of these questions 100 times, but I like to try to throw in something that might be a little bit different. You've written some amazing books, probably Exactly What to Say, maybe the biggest. I'm not sure.
Without question. Probably 10 times anything else I've written lies in Exactly What to Say. I think Exactly What to Say to me is like what Gangnam Style is to size repertoire of hits.
I love it. So why do you think that caught on the way it did? And I'd like to talk just a little bit about it because I love it. I've bought it. I own it. I love the ability, the ease of use of it. Why do you think it caught on the way it did?
I really appreciate that question, Rob, because I think more people are asking, like, how did you do it? Like, how do you produce a book that sells 1 million copies? You've asked a better question, which is, why do I think that this really caught on? And I have given a lot of thought to this, so I've probably got a fairly detailed answer. And there are a few factors. It is the counterintuitiveness of the title. This can't tell me exactly what to say.
Right.
There's no way that this could tell me exactly what to say, but I'd like to know exactly what to say, but this can't. So I should probably read this thing.
I love that.
There's another factor to it it's short. See, we live in a world where people have told us for a long period of time, a business book needs to be 35,000 words plus. It needs to sit on a shelf. You want to make sure that you get some spine depth. It needs to be released in hardcover first because that's what all of the lists are interested in, yada, 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 yada. And I was refused by every major publisher because I said I want to go straight to paperback. I've written a book. It's 14,500 words. Wow. It doesn't follow the format of any normal book. In fact, it doesn't even have a list of chapters. There is no index or appendices. And my output was to be able to design and craft a book where form follows function. I wanted this to be something that people would carry around with them, something they throw in their bag and read on a flight or a train, or they'd listen to in one journey on an Audible recording. It wasn't something that was meant to be read once. It was something that was meant to be read again and again. And I've learned through this period that there is only one thing that sells books, one thing and one thing alone. And it's somebody else reading a book and saying, I read this, you should read it too. That's it. Past any launch period of time of people supporting friends or getting involved in bonuses is the thing that makes a book evergreen is a perpetual cycle of somebody saying, I read this, you should read it too. And because my book is so short and it's useful and it's counterintuitive, but huge common sense, people read it and they go, dang, somebody else should read this too.
Yeah.
Now, there's another thing to this also is most people write a book for too few people. Like, I'm a speaker before I'm an author. And a giant part of my strategy was that this is a genuine revenue stream within my speaking business.
Right.
And what do? You write a book for the 3 people who are at the back of the room that booked you? Or do you write a book for the 1,000 people in the audience?
Right.
And those numbers are really true, right? The majority of high-level thinking leadership books are for everybody else. Whereas I want to be able to create a book that's for every person. And that viewpoint has meant that I've had the ability to have a strike rate of like 7 out of 10 for every event that I'm booked to speak at for them to buy books for all attendees. Then what happens is somebody's at the conference and they see the guy that spoke and they all got a copy of the book. And what do some of them say? Hey, I read this book. You should read it too.
Right.
And the ripple is real. I give tons of books away. And guess what? I can because there's a paperback. It doesn't cost me a ton of money.
Right.
it puts more books out into the world for then people to say, I read this book and you should read it too. When somebody asks me for a copy to be able to help out a friend, I send them one. I don't charge them for it. They say, what do I owe you? I say, you owe me nothing, but buy another copy for somebody else you care about.
Yeah.
Which becomes another one of those conversations, which is, I read this book, you should read it too. And that's how you keep a book alive. See, my goal with this book was not to hit a list. Yeah. I am one of the only people that I know that have sold over 1 million copies of a book and not been on a single list.
What?
Correct. Isn't it cool? It's made me over $1 million.
Of course.
And I never made a list. I'm still 3 years after its launch, well, now nearly 4 years after its launch, I'm still in the top 5,000 books typically on Amazon.
Yeah.
But it sits there just below the radar, right? If there was a top 40 in music hits, I'd be number 41, but I'd be there forever.
That's not a bad place to be, right?
And that's the space I want to be, right? I don't want to be number one for a week. I want to be number 41 forever.
Yeah.
And I think that when people go into the idea of writing a book or producing a book or publishing a book, too many people take a short-term view.
Yeah.
This is a legacy piece. This is a calling card that's going to live with me my entire professional life and past it. And if I keep doing this right, my kids are going to benefit too.
Right.
Like legit benefit. And I enjoy this. I'm always in launch mode. I'm here on this podcast with you because I'm still in launch mode.
Well, I'm going to promote the hell out of this because I love what you're saying. I mean, look, I can't tell you the number of people that come to me. 2 weeks ago, I had a guy wired me a large sum of money, mid 5 figures sum of money. We went to agreement about writing his book. And we tell our clients, look, 37,000 or so-ish words, that's the max. That's the sweet spot because statistically, and they've done plenty of research on this, anything more than that and consumption falls way off. Mm-hmm. And this guy said, look, you should have told me that before. I want a book that's going to be 400 pages. He's actually in a similar area as you, but speaks directly to real estate people in the real estate space, which of course I know you have a book in real estate as well. Long story short, we sent his money back. We wired his money back because he couldn't wrap his head around that the book needs to be shorter, not longer. That the longer it is, the less people are they're going to be that actually read it and use it. I love what you're saying here.
Well, there are 2 types of books that need to be written. There's the book you need to write for yourself and the book you need to write for everybody else.
Right.
And the big book is typically the one you need to write for everybody else. Let me, I know some of you can see this on video here right now. It's my first book. It's a book called Toolbox.
Love it. Yeah.
It's terrible. It's not really terrible, but it was me saying, how can I cram as many different ideas, thoughts, and strategies as I possibly can into a single book to prove that I know something about the world of sales and salesmanship?
Right.
And sure, I was proud of it. And what success meant to me is that one person other than me, my mum and my grandma bought a copy. That was my measure of success.
Right.
I don't know. We sold 15, 20,000 copies and it was well received and I was proud of it. But I look at it nearly a decade on and thought, what the heck was I doing? Right. And sometimes, like, if you've got a big book that you need to write, just because, write it, self-publish it, produce it, and then get that one under your belt quick and get moving on.
Yeah.
And people make the mistake of thinking that they're only going to write one book.
Right.
You write one big book and then you put all your weight behind it and it flops. You just ruined your chance of being an author.
Yeah.
And authors write. I mean, they keep writing.
Yeah.
They don't write once.
Very true. Yeah, creating content needs to be a way of life. I think there are multiple ways to do that. I'd love to hear a little bit about your way because many of my clients are not daily writers. And in fact, I am not. So we've actually created an entire system around capturing voice and creating content through the spoken word rather than the written word. How do you do it? What's your methodology? You're clearly, a regular content creator.
And my methodology is chaotic.
I want to hear it.
So if I think of it, I do it. Yeah, I do think in terms of content.
Yeah.
I'm always looking at how do I repurpose? How do I bring that back to life? How do I create new angle on that? And when you stop viewing a book as a book and you view a book as a business, you stop marketing the book and you start creating content around the ideas.
Right.
And you start caring about the problem that is solved by your book, even if the solution to the thing that you aren't looking to solve isn't actually in the book, but it still links towards the book in some way. And you've got to get passionate about the problem. I had a conversation yesterday with a brand new author who launched his book yesterday. He sold out his first 6,000 copies in inventory, and I've been a mentor to him through the early stages of his book. And he says, well, how do you keep it alive? How do you keep it alive like 4 years after launch? I said, stop promoting the book. He said, that can't be true. I said, no, stop promoting the book. Is that what you have to do is you have to create something newsworthy every day or every week that in some way shows you still care about the stuff you wrote about.
Right.
Like you're doing an example of this right now, right? I see the book in your background. I see the title. I very clearly understand what it is that you're about. But you're also running an organization that helps people do exactly the same. You're here on a podcast, capturing information from other authors that is going to add to your experience and your intelligence around this subject matter.
Yep.
And the result of which is more people will find awareness towards your book.
Sure.
And this is what you should do with your content is care about the problem. We're in a period of time right now. We're recording this in April of 2021.
Right.
And the question I keep getting asked on podcasts and in interviews that I'm doing is like what's changed for you in your business over like the pandemic 12 months and everything that you've experienced the last 12 months? And I said, not much. They said, yeah, but you're not on planes, you're not on trains, you're not like, you've had to reinvent and pivot everything. I said, no, I've done what I've always done. They said, well, what's that? Well, I've said I've made sure that I've provided for my family and, I help businesses navigate change.
Yeah.
That's it. Like I have to do it in different ways,
right?
But I'm doing what I've always done. And I think this is what us as authors or experts or subject matter experts need to wrap our heads around. We're not what we did, we're what we do.
Right.
And what we do is in the modality, is the medium. Like people say they're a speaker. You can't be a speaker. You can speak.
Right.
But you can't be a speaker. You're a something that speaks.
Right.
You're a something that writes. So be the something. And then keep writing, keep speaking, keep creating content, and keep bringing yourself to first world problems that are existing right in front of your nose.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't run out of ideas. My issue with content creation is I have more ideas than I have time to fulfill. So I wake up in the middle of the night sending myself an email. And in my inbox right now, right, I got 580 something emails in my inbox. Some of them require action. Some of them are done. 111 of them are from me.
No kidding. Well, those are the most important, I bet.
Yeah. And most of them, like just a content idea, like a content idea of something that I tripped up upon. And many of them I haven't done anything with. I'll give you an example of which, right? I talk about words, the power of words, the impact of word choices, wrote a book called Magic Words, wrote a book called Exactly What to Say, the Magic Words for Influence and Impact. Words are my thing. And Amanda Gorman wrote a wonderful poem that was ridiculously well received. I wrote an email to myself that day saying complete a piece based on the words that matter from that speech. Yeah. Now I didn't do it. I should have done it, but that's the point, right? That's why I'm saying it's in chaos, is that I'm saying I care about the impact of words and my content is crafted through caring about the impact of words. Right. So when I see words create impact, I feel like it's my job to provide commentary around that and provide some expertise from my angle, from my lens. So it doesn't mean that I'm right. I just have to be able to bring my voice towards that and share my opinion, because apparently more than 1 million people care about it. Hence they read, they bought the books. Right. Beautiful. Tell me, I know, just sticking with the exactly what to say, you have 25, 24, 26 really specific chapters. Love it. I'm not sure if it's for you. How would you feel? 2 types of people. I've used those things a number of times, by the way. They are magic words, right? I mean, they really do. It really is exactly what to say. Yep. Do you have a favorite? I have 3 kids, and you should never claim to have a favorite kid, but you might. Do you have a favorite among those, or one that you see yourself using on a regular basis in your field? I distilled this book down to all of my favorites, right? Like this is a greatest hits from a repertoire of sales language that's come from training more than 2 million sales professionals. Right. So this is a greatest hits. There's plenty more that aren't in the book, didn't make the book. Right. The one I find myself using more often than not, and that I get people reach back out to me that they share as one of their favorites, is the use of the words open-minded, particularly in the form of a question.
Okay.
And the reason behind that, and for anybody listening in who isn't familiar with the book, is a simple challenge that many people face is they know that their success is in direct correlation to the quantity of quality asks that they make in their life, yet still they won't ask, typically through fear of rejection. Right. So what I write towards is the creation of rejection-free opening formulas, sequences of words that allow you to ask for the things you want in life where rejection is not an option.
Yes.
The open-minded formula is an example of which I'm that. And if I asked a room of 1,000 people who in this room would see themselves as open-minded, I get almost every hand hit the ceiling.
Yeah.
So we take the fact that the whole world likes to see themselves as open-minded. That's the base psychology that we found this on. And we add it to the principle that the person asking the questions is in control of the conversation.
Yeah.
And we form a question that is, how open-minded would you be to, as an inviting form? And look at how it changes things, right? Instead of saying, hey, do you want Chinese food tonight, honey? Versus, hey, how open-minded would you be to Chinese food tonight, honey?
Yeah.
Like one feels like it's pushy and leading, and the other feels like it's pulley, and it's creating a more enticing approach. It's playing in the gray space of the conversation that is allowing the other person to flex. And it makes it fun. It makes it feel like a dance as opposed to a fight.
Right.
So the use of the how open-minded question is the one that I think I get the most applause for out of all of them in the book.
Beautiful. And so, it's interesting. You're talking a lot about human psychology, and we're at a time kind of in the world right now, at least in the United States, and I know you have a home here in Florida as well as overseas in the UK. And certainly here, I mean, there is so much confusion. There's so much anger. There seems to be like this constant conflict.
It's who are you fighting with today, right?
It is. And, I stay away from the mainstream news, but of course, you can't stay away from the news, right? You can't stay away from the biggest things that are happening, nor probably should you. But I'm just wondering, do you ever think about the implications of, some of your training to, like greater society? Like exactly what to say works in every interaction, right? It works in dating. You gave an example of a husband and a wife communicating about what they're going to have for dinner. What about things like, what about the big stuff, the big rocks, politics, and dealing with, people of different minds?
I know that we are in podcast format right now, but I also understand that you're going to utilize some of this for video later.
Yeah, I am.
There's a framework that I've been sharing a lot with people recently, and I pulled this framework from my Audible original that I did for Audible for Business, which happened long before this pandemic piece, which was where they asked me to record a training workshop on critical ingredients to navigate complex conversations.
Okay.
And it's funny that I did this in 2019, then everything in 2020 happened, and then all the conflict with the politics and everything happened, and people have been asking me to talk about this. And I talked towards the fact that to navigate any critical conversation, we just need 3 ingredients, and these only 3 ingredients are required in this exact order. And the 3 ingredients are, firstly, to start a conversation from a position of curiosity. From curiosity, dance towards a position of empathy. And then once you've reached a position of empathy, now what we're looking for is the ingredient called courage. These are the 3 ingredients that need to be utilized in that precise order. But why those 3 ingredients and why that precise order? Let's take the curiosity piece first. Is everyone listening in right now, have you ever had maybe somebody show up into a conversation with you where they're so certain of their point of view? I mean, so ridiculously certain that they are projecting their knowledge, their wisdom, their thoughts on you, that the more certain they are of their point of view, the more uncertain you become in them. Yeah. It almost rubs you up the wrong way when somebody knows so much, they are so certain, you become uncertain. I find it crazily ironic that certainty creates uncertainty.
How about that?
Instead, if you show up with curiosity, you've got more chance of reaching certainty. Why? Because you understand context. The most important thing to understand is that content without context is merely noise. And the world is noisy enough. See, people show up forcing content on people, yet they haven't earned their context first.
Right.
One of the most interesting examples on this is my best friend, the best man at my wedding, lives in Kentucky, lives in Bowling Green, has grown up with guns his entire life. His thought process around guns, in my mind, is ridiculous. And we can laugh and joke about this over a bourbon, right? But we are like from chalk and cheese. And here's the thing. When I show up with curiosity to my conversation with my buddy about what he thinks about guns, we realize that our strong beliefs around guns and gun culture are based on the exact same belief. He believes what he believes about guns because he wants to keep his family safe. I believe what I believe about guns because I want to keep my family safe.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Now we find something that we can agree upon, which is what dances us towards this position on empathy.
Gotcha.
Empathy is just caring about what the people you care about care about. The mistake most people make is the only person they care about is themselves. What they want to be able to prove in a conversation is I'm right, as opposed to that's right. Catch that. They want to prove I'm right as opposed to that's right. Completely. What they want to be able to say is I beat you. I'm right, you're wrong.
Exactly.
What people should look to be able to do is it's me and you versus the problem.
Yeah. Not
me versus you. So empathy gets you towards relatability. Relatability wins you trust. And these are the two steps that everybody misses. They just think that they're down here at the courage piece saying that if you don't ask, you don't get. So my job is to ask, it's to be bullish, it's to go out and try and rally the troops, it's out there to be able to change people's minds, etc. But if you just start off with the courage to ask people for things, you're rude, you're pushy, you're obnoxious,
right?
Self-centered, you're a manipulator. Instead, if you dance those first two steps by showing up to every complex conversation from a position of curiosity first, learning the context to the other person's unique circumstances before you judge, and then you have the empathy to truly see it through their eyes first, detracting yourself from it and then gain a position of trust. And you then have the ability to ask for the change you want in the world. Watch how it changes your results everywhere.
Beautiful.
The trouble is it's work. People don't want to do the work.
Yeah, that takes time, energy, humility, right?
And attention.
Yeah.
And if more people showed up to a conversation saying, I might not be right, let me see if I can find out how I might be wrong, they'd actually prove their points better than by showing up saying, let me tell you what I know that you don't.
I love that. Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. Do you feel like that can be done in a very kind of one-sided manner? Because it's certainly possible for one person to come into a conversation with that mentality and mindset, but the likelihood of both parties having that mentality and mindset seems near impossible, if you know what I mean. What are your thoughts about that?
There's something I learned from some deep study of work by the guy called Dale Carnegie much earlier in my career. And one of the things that I learned from Dale Carnegie's work is that unreasonable cannot deal with reasonable. So if you can stand strong on being reasonable without losing your cool, what happens is unreasonable realizes they're being unreasonable at some point. Now, that some point might take some time.
Yeah.
So if you can just be curious for long enough, I'll give you an example that comes from my personal life. Somebody in my family responded to a conversation the other day by saying, everybody's been saying this about us. I say, everybody? They say, yeah, everybody. I say, are you sure? They said, well, not everybody. I said, well, then who? Well, like most of the people that were at the wedding. I said, most of the people? Like who? Well, maybe it was just one person.
Right.
Well, who was that? Oh, and what exactly did they say? Well, it was kind of like this. I said, is that exactly what they said? Or could it be possible that that's how you interpreted what they said? Do you think they meant what you're feeling right now? No, I don't think they did mean that. So why are you choosing to feel it then? You see how that becomes a that's right moment at the end of it?
Yeah.
But you've got to be reasonable for long enough. If I come in with an I know best, and step back at that, like you're being an idiot. It can't be everybody that was saying that. It must have just been 1, 2, or 3 people. And they probably didn't mean it. They were probably thinking of it in another way. And they'd be like, well, you just never listened. You weren't there, right?
Right. It takes a great deal of patience to walk through that, especially probably with a family member, right? Yeah. Because of the emotion that's attached in that relationship.
But the trick has to be to do the dance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing to remember when I say the metaphor of doing the dance is my experience has been that most people don't want to get on the dance floor first, but everybody loves to dance. And this requires leadership. And when it comes to complex conversations, when it comes to navigating change, understand that what you are as a leader. And you can't push people as a leader for too long.
Yeah.
You can only pull. And that means that you have to understand that the person who is asking the questions is the one who's controlling the conversations. And your job is to sell people, not tell people. And you sell people by helping them see it from a completely different point of view.
Right.
And that can easily be explained with a metaphor too. So I'm going to hold you up another copy of my crappy book, right? And I'm going to ask you, what do you see?
I see a book with tons of tools, get more, win more, 250 pictures.
And what did I see?
You saw a pen.
Who was right?
Both of us.
Right?
Yeah.
And I could have argued, blue in the face, you're an idiot.
Right.
It's a pen.
Right.
You could have said, it's not a pen, it's a book.
Different perspectives. Yeah.
Right. But if we'd have got up and we'd have moved and we'd have seen this thing side by side,
right.
We'd have been like, it's a book and a pen.
Yeah.
And we'd be both be able to move forward. And that's what questions allow you to be able to do. They allow you to change somebody's perspective. You allow them to be able to look at it from a new point of view, and you allow them to be able to change their own mind, to be able to save face while doing so. And now you can be us and them versus the problem because we've agreed upon the facts.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I can now have some really powerful conversations with my good friends about gun control because we're deep rooted with the same set of values, actually, in truth.
Yeah.
And we can actually take the extremes of ridicules of beliefs around some of these things and decide that that isn't going to enter into our conversation. But we can actually shape our shades of gray in this a little and learn stuff from each other.
Yeah.
And that's how you change the world. One conversation at a time.
Yeah. Well, we've come a long way from sales training, haven't we?
But everything's a sale, right?
It is. It is. Even as those words fell from my mouth, I thought, nah, he's not gonna leave that. I love it. So brilliant stuff. Thank you. Thanks for your generosity in sharing those things. Let me change gears for just a moment. You've done a lot for people with your books. You are just getting started. You're creating a lot of content. Your books have done things for you. And that's maybe a little bit different part of our podcast. I'd love to hear how your books have helped you, how your most recent book has helped you. What specifically, maybe some stories or just, in general, how have your books helped you grow your authority, grow your brand?
They've been everything. And even down to what I referred to earlier as this crappy little book.
Right. You don't mean that.
I don't mean it. It's crappy in comparison to other stuff I wrote, but I'd like to think that anybody's work today is significantly better than what they did a decade ago.
Right.
That was a passport that gave me permission to step onto stages I was struggling with. Because what you should all be working on is your future bio, your future speaker introduction. What I've learned about speaker introductions is the shorter your introduction, the higher your fee.
Interesting. They already know who you are, right?
Correct. If you can say, here is Barack Obama.
Yeah, that was the first thought that came to my mind.
Right?
What needs to be said?
That is a higher caliber individual than, let me introduce you to, insert name, works at so-and-so for so long, founder of this, blah, 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 blah. Like the longer the bio, the lower the fee.
Right.
Like if I've got to work harder to explain somebody. Yeah, what you need in the early stages of any personal brand business is you need some pegs in a board that somebody can hang their hat on to say, okay, if I'm investing a chunk of change in bringing this person into my life or my business, why is this person the authority on the thing? And a book is a just trusted, relevant reason for that. Yeah. And it's a very easy accepted passport for somebody to say, best-selling author of blank is a valuable commodity. Right. Particularly if it's true. And by true, I mean, you want to go to bed believing you're a bestseller, not that you were in one category for one moment and you sold 17 copies. Like you want to be able to own that.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. There's so many scams out there that are so ridiculous.
Right. And I think your own integrity needs that because you don't want to tick a box for a fortnight. This lives with you forever. It's it's date stamp in your Wikipedia resume, even if it doesn't exist yet.
Well said.
So I think that long-term view has been great. And the books have done that for me. What else they've done is they've helped me crystallize thinking. When you write a thought after having trained a thought, and then you rewrite that thought, and then you share your thoughts on the thought that you wrote down, and then you rewrite the thought again after having gone through that entire process, you start to sharpen your thinking. Right. Some of you might have been in this interview today to say, how did Phil jump to that idea and that model and that thought and that example so quickly in this short time together? Because I've done it a number of times. Because I wrote it down in books. and then was asked to workshop it, and then have had the ability to be able to refine it, and then have been interviewed about this stuff on multiple times, you sharpen your own critical thinking. And it's amazing how much you can progress an idea from a good idea to a great idea to an unforgettable idea through continuing to be able to work it. So the books have done that too. What else they've done is they've provided stable revenue. See, my books used to be the sprinkles on top of the cupcake once upon a time. An extra $500 here, an extra $1,500 there. Dang, we sold 11 today. That's an extra $45, right? All that stuff used to be fun. Right. Yet today, every single day, I make more than a healthy living wage from book royalties.
Spectacular.
And through the entire last 12, 18 months, where other people have been panicking about the feast and famine that could be coming with a speaking business revenue model, I've not worried about feeding my family.
Yeah.
So books have done that. Like the level of comfort you can do if you get that thing right, and an ecosystem of content that is working for you, means you can play from a position of posture.
Yeah.
And if you have plans to build a speaking business or a coaching business or any form of authority personal brand business, and you don't have posture, you're going to find it a lot harder. Because the other thing that affects your speaking fees is your ability to say no.
Right.
I really believe that one of the biggest things that affects somebody's speaking fee is your ability to walk away. If you can't walk away from a $5,000 gig, you won't get paid more than $5,000.
100%.
And the reason that some of these people get paid $100,000 a gig, $150 a gig, $200,000 a gig is because they said no to 50.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like at some point they said no to 50, and someone said, if I want that guy or that girl, like I got to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So books can give you some stability that give you posture. They open doors. They introduce you to strangers. Every single day I get some stranger reach out saying, I read this. And sometimes it's work. I got to have a 7 DM exchange on Instagram with a stranger from Iran. And other days it's really cool.
Yeah.
I've been introduced to some giant contracts where somebody is like fanboying over the book. And now we're in a conversation, and now we're talking about a giant consulting project or a big speaking opportunity that's come through the book. And that's really fun.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to do that credibility dance that often comes at the beginning of winning business. It's, you're at the finish line at the start of the conversation. This is, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And I hope I can afford you. As opposed to, send me your pitch. Can you come and have a presentation? Like, can we have an argument over fees? Yeah. So it repositions the sales process when done right. What else has it done for me? I mean, the list could be endless.
It's a long list, isn't it?
It is a long list. And I mean, we're translated now into 27 different languages.
I know. I saw that. Amazing. So cool.
And that's cool. I've just sent a copy of every cover we have so far to the framers, and we're taking some stuff out on that. And that international translations piece, the one thing that you often miss in this space as a personal brand is the respect of family members, loved ones, the people that knew you when you were at high school, because they don't get it half the time, right? And their ability to be able to explain what you do becomes harder, etc. But the second they can say he or she wrote a book and the book done well,
he's an author.
They've got their portable story that helps them, which then in turn helps you, right? You find your position back in your family unit, that you're not the black sheep anymore. You're like, aha, you're now like the proud little golden swan. And the international piece does that best.
Yeah.
Like your loved ones love telling them, it's been translated into like lots of different languages. They love that piece. So like, there are social cues from it. There are other little factors where you get, Z-list celebrity status. And, that's useful sometimes when you want to open a door in some way, particularly within your local communities. Right. I moved to St. Pete. And when I went into the local bookstore and I, started up a conversation with the owners, is I got a glass of champagne, I gifted them some books, and they wrote some content about the fact that an author's moved to town.
Yeah.
And that gave me a little pin in a map where, I got friends here right now.
Yeah.
So even those little social things that can happen where your book is your passport to start a conversation with instant credibility is a useful tool to have in your arsenal.
It's really interesting. I hadn't even thought of that. My wife and I love to collect art, and we've spent tens of thousands of dollars in this local art gallery. And because of that, we are treated very well, as you might imagine. Yeah. But when they found out I was an author, and asked me to bring my book in, which I did, it was like, now I'm only introduced as an author.
Right.
I'm not a collector anymore. I'm not like a patron of the gallery. I'm the author. I haven't even thought of that until you just said it. It's amazing how, Z-list celebrity status comes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get above my own status with it, but it's
yeah. Let's not get carried away. I love it. I love it. Phil, thank you. Thanks for your generosity and sharing. I love the way you think. I'm sure you're working on new stuff, and I can't wait to see the new stuff. By the way, do you have something new coming out anytime soon, a new book?
I got two things. One is, and this is a hard thing to get right, so I don't know if I've done it yet, and we're still working on it, but I'm doing a second edition of Exactly What to Say.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And my second edition is going to be a desktop edition, which is going to be the hardcover.
Okay.
So we're going back to front where the hardcover comes second. And it expanded. And now this is one that we expect people to keep hold of for a period of time, to be in their library, to be on their desk. So we're going to trial that. And towing the line between how much new do you bring into it and how much do you keep it true to its original, like that. That's a puzzle I'm playing with right now. We're doing dozens of custom editions into niches.
I saw that. I saw the one for real estate, which was interesting.
Yep. That was the first pilot we did. And for your info, we're at nearly 50,000 units on the real estate edition.
No kidding. Spectacular.
Which is big numbers for a business book in each is really interesting, which is hence we're going to try some other niches and see how that works out.
Of course.
And the one I'm most excited about is I've written a children's book. So we've taken the principles from Exactly What to Say, and before the year is out, we will be publishing a book that is meant to be read by parents to children to help educate them about the power of words.
Beautiful.
And move them away from just please and thank yous and help them become a little more considerate about how words have feelings attached to them and how those feelings can impact how other people think and behave.
I love that. I think of a mutual friend of ours, Todd Herman, and what he's done with Alter Ego. And he just told me the day before yesterday he got another order of 10,000 for his children's book. He's making a great impact.
The same person that created my company with Todd, and it's a lot of fun as well. And I think there's so much in our work life right now that is not as much fun as it used to be. To make choices to do things that insert some more fun, certainly keeps some juice in the tank and keeps us creative and keeps us thinking about fun stuff. Beautiful. Well, congratulations on that. We'll look forward to that coming out and certainly let our audience know about that when it does come out and the hardcover edition. So I guess last thing, just, where can people get more information? Where do you want to send them? Best places for that? You bet. I mean, website is philmjones.com. From there, you can link out to any of the social channels. You can read some blogs. You can find the books. You can do all of those things. If you've got a favored place to be able to go to bookstores, come stop by there. And similarly, on the social channels, if Instagram or LinkedIn are probably the two that I show up on most personally. Yeah. So if there's something you've taken from this interview or you've got a question that you want to join in on, then ping me there. I'll stick it up on screen right now, but that's my Instagram is @PhilMJonesUK, and love to hear something you've taken from this interview that's made it a useful listen from your point of view. So DM me there and tell me what your takeaways are. Love that. Well, people have already heard that you do respond to your DMs on Instagram, so don't expect to get some. I think that's going to be interesting. I'm certainly going to friend you on Instagram and say, okay, this is a place I can talk to Phil a little bit more. It's great. There you go. There you go. Brother, thank you so much for inviting me, Rob. It's been a pleasure to chat, and it's been nice to chat about the book as a business as opposed to the contents of the book. So that's been a lot of fun and much appreciated. Yeah, thank you. Again, thanks for sharing and your vulnerability and generosity. Really, really great stuff, and look forward to hearing more, my friend. Thank you. Pleasure.